I was practicing my market gardening on TR Walkway. After practicing for a while, I used the net_fake lag command to simulate realistic latency, because I wanted to make sure that my timing wasn't messed up by playing on a local server with no lag. So I set it to 20 because the fake lag command uses one-way latency, and I usually have about 40 millisecond round trip ping as displayed on the HUD. However, with this setting, it felt very similar. To make sure that it was working properly, I cranked it up to an absurd number. I set it to 400, which again is simulating 800 millisecond round trip ping. This is more than any server you're going to see on the face of the planet, unless you have really, really bad Wi-Fi. The first thing I noticed is that rocket jumping is lag compensated really well. It's awkward because when you first try the rocket jump, you see your character just jump normally, because the rocket hasn't actually been fired yet because the rocket is processed server side. However, once the server sends you the response about actually firing the rocket, your character snaps to the position that should be from the jump. So effectively, you can do any one rocket jump just as you would with no lag, even on this absurd latency, which is really cool. You're going to be out of luck for speed pogoings and other multi-rocket jumps, just because that rocket is going to be way too far behind. But single jumps work, and for market gardening, that's often enough. However, the second thing I noticed was a bit more strange. Normally, when you're market gardening, you want to approach beside your victim.
Aim to land right next to that spot. Aim to land right next to that spot. Right next to that spot. Next to that spot. Yep, that's right. We are not aiming to land on top of somebody. We are aiming to land next to somebody.
This gives you a lot of time to actually swing and land your shovel before you hit the ground. If you come from the top, normally it's incredibly difficult to time the swing of the shovel such that you are in melee range from above, but you haven't yet landed on the top of your opponent. However, with high lag, this is actually really easy to achieve. Let's look at an example. You can see that I land on the player's head right here, and the shovel hits here distinctly later. I recorded a POV demo of that, so we can take another look. After a brief period of gliding along the ground, we jump into the air. Then, while still high in the air, we hit with our shovel. And much later, we finally touch down on the ground. So from the demo's point of view, it's pretty clear that we did in fact land the market gardener with a critical. The last thing that I wanted to check was that this worked on a regular server. I wanted to make sure it wasn't an artifact of fake ping or the local server. So I hopped onto the highest ping server I could find and gave it a shot. And what do you know, good old Hightower. And sure enough, it works just the same on a real server. A little harder to be sure because the ping is a lot lower, but with enough attempts, I definitely found a case where I landed on the head before the shovel hit. Looking at the demo shows the same story as the local server. It's clear that I'm swinging way up in the air and landing afterwards. So what does that mean? I guess it'll be slightly easy to market garden on high latency, at least after you account for the added difficulty of more complex jumps. I don't think there's any practical use. You can of course add lag artificially pretty easily. The net fake lag command is considered a cheat, but you can obviously do this with the firewall rule or whatever on your system. I don't think the benefit's really worth it. You really just want to be market gardening from the side anyways, but I just thought it was a really interesting aspect of the lag compensation. It seems that the server thinks that you're far behind the position the client thinks you are. And I guess when the client timestamps the swing of the market garden, the server processes that with that wrong position. So it quite simply thinks you're still in the air and registers a hit as it should. I suspect that's something that could be fixed if they really wanted to. But maybe, asking the client where you were is just going to lead to opening other cheats that are more important. So I don't think it's a big deal. I just thought it was quite interesting to see. And, well, if you're practicing market gardening, make sure the lag isn't too high.